Iran has repeatedly threatened to wipe Israel off the map and to drive her into the sea. The threat seemed rather hollow when Iran was over 1,000 miles away. However, Iran now has bases in Syria, less than 100 miles from Israel. Are these threats merely empty boast, or is Iran serious? We'll answer straight from the Bible on today's edition of End of the Age.
Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
You're listening to an End of the Age encore presentation.
There's quite a clash building up between Israel and Iran. It's been happening for a long time. As long ago as 4 or 5 years, there were rallies in Iran where they would chant, death to America, death to Israel. They called America the big Satan. They called Israel the little Satan. They planned to ultimately wipe both of us off the face of the map. However, recently, since Iran has moved into Syria, plus Hezbollah is in Lebanon just north of Israel, all of a sudden the threat has become louder and much more problematic. This article appeared in the Times of Israel. It's entitled, "Iran Threatens to Annihilate Israel as Hezbollah Boast of Reach of Rockets." That just appeared on April the 21st. The head of the Iranian army on Saturday, April 21st, said Iranian forces were working to annihilate Israel and predicted they would achieve success within 25 years. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when someone threatens to annihilate you, that's a pretty serious thing. It's not so serious when they say, I'm going to kill you in 25 years. But still, if you have a next door neighbor that says, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to annihilate you, doesn't make for good neighbors. The article goes on to say the threats from the commander of Iran's army, Major General Mousavi, come amid almost daily warnings of conflict from Tehran and Jerusalem, heightened by an alleged Israeli strike on an Iranian base in Syria earlier in this month. When the arrogant powers create a sanctuary for the Zionist regime, it's talking about the United States basically, to continue survival, we shouldn't allow one day to be added to the ominous and illegitimate life of this regime, Mousavi told a ceremony in Tehran on Saturday, according to the Fars news agency. Now, he's speaking about the United States of America protecting Israel and this horrible regime. The Army will move hand in hand with the IRGC so that the arrogant system will collapse and the Zionist regime will be annihilated, General Mousavi said, referring to the Revolutionary Guards. Now, I want to just pause and think about this. This is a general in the Iranian army making all of these bellicose statements. But he's projecting the attitude of the entire nation of Iran. He calls Israel an illegitimate entity, the Zionist entity. It's got to be removed. It's a cancer. So when you hear this and you're little Israel surrounded on every side by enemies, how do you feel? How do you react? Now, continuing on, Musavvig predicted this would take place within 25 years, a number frequently used by the Iranian leadership. Speaking hours later, Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah warned that the Lebanese terror group's rockets could hit all of Israel. Now remember, Hezbollah's in Lebanon, just immediately over the border. You've got due north from Israel, Lebanon. You got northeast of Israel, Syria. So they have these two belligerents on their two northern borders. I mean, from the border of Israel to Damascus is only a 40-mile trip by road. So Israel's living right there. And in these days of jet airplanes and missiles, 40 miles is almost nothing. The forces of the resistance today have the ability, the power, and the missiles to hit any target in Israel, said Nasrallah. Hezbollah is one of Iran's main proxies in its fight with Israel. Now, this has been going on a long time. Hezbollah is an arm of Iran, financed by Iran. So that's where we find ourselves right now. It's so interesting what is actually taking place right before our eyes, this conflict. We're going to show you before we're done today how it all ends, because the Bible tells us it's explicitly prophesied in your Bible and mine.
The End Time Prophecy Tour was the most wonderful tour. I would like to thank Irvin and Judy Baxter for a fabulous trip to Israel. I know it took much effort and planning to make it successful. What a tremendous time we all had, which warrants a great big thank you. You can't encapsulate it into words. You can't capture it with a photograph. You just have to experience Israel yourself. The Queen of Sheba said, "The half has not been told." I concur. What an awesome experience to visit the land of Bible history and see it come alive as you walk its paths. I shall be forever changed. Dale from Louisiana.
Join us October 25th through November 5th, 2018. You too can experience Israel with Irvin and Judy Baxter. Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463 to sign up today.
If ever people need to hear the unvarnished truth, it is now. There are some subjects that are not politically correct to talk about, but they're urgent. That's why I'm grateful for End Time Magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you're missing information that will really impact your life. End Time has a bi-monthly magazine that explains how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. You can get a 2-year subscription for only $29. You can also get a bulk subscription and pass them out to your church. We have gotten reports that End Time Magazine has caused spiritual awakenings in churches when they see the prophecies being fulfilled right now. You can start your own ministry and leave them in doctors' offices, libraries, laundromats. You never know if you might be responsible for saving someone who is searching for the unvarnished truth. That's what the magazine has done in many lives. Call 1-800-363-8463. That's 1-800-END-TIME and get your subscription today.
You're listening to an End of the Age encore presentation.
Recently, the vice commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guards warned Israel that its air bases are, quote, within reach. In remarks apparently reacting to Israel's publication on Tuesday of a map showing 5 Tehran-controlled bases in Syria. We're talking about Iranian bases in Syria, 5 of them, all of them probably within 200 miles of Israel, some of them closer than 100 miles from Israel. Now remember, Iran has been threatening for a long time, we're going to wipe you off the map. But that was when they were 1,000 miles away. But since the Syrian civil war, Iran moved in to prop up the regime of Bashar al-Assad, and they've stayed. So today, Iran has 100,000 troops and now apparently 5 bases in Syria. Now, Israel said they were not going to allow Iran to have any bases in Syria, but now they've got them. So what do? Do they attack them and take them away? If so, how does Russia react? What about all the anti-missile batteries that Russia now has installed in Syria? It's complex. Israel has an Iran problem. Continuing on, Israel said Salami was living in the dragon's mouth. Both northern and western Israel were in the range of our missiles. He threatened in a speech given in Tehran, wherever you are in the occupied land, you'll be under fire from us, from east and west. Notice he calls it the occupied land. They love to say that. Now, it's not occupied territory, and the United States of America has just within the last few days quit referring to it as occupied territory because it was not the Palestinians' territory ever. So to call it occupied territory is a deception. Well, let's continue. You became arrogant. If there's a war, the result will be your complete elimination, he said. There it is, the threats over and over. Your soldiers and civilians will flee, and you won't survive, and you'll have nowhere to run except to fall into the sea. Wow. Not a good idea for Israel. We're talking about a people that have been running for their lives for the last 2,000 years, that finally escaped Europe and Hitler's Holocaust and made it to this little patch of land, 50 miles wide at the widest point and 200 miles long. It's all they have in the whole world. And now they face this loud threat from Iran. Let's take a look at the prophecy in the Bible now, because it's one thing for me to say something to you is true, but it's another thing for you to hear it straight from the world's greatest book, the Bible. Ezekiel chapter 38, and I want to read first of all 5 verses there. Now the word of the Lord came to me saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. Pause right there. Notice Rosh, which is a derivative of Russia. Meshech, if you look at one of those big, large, unabridged dictionaries under Meshech, it'll tell you it's the root word for Muscovy or Moscow. Tubal, there's a Tobolsk city in Russia today, and there's a Tobol River in Russia today. So all these names definitely are derivatives from ancient Russia. So he goes on to say, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now this is God speaking here. And say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, and lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen, all splendidly clothed, a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And then he says this. He's going to talk about some other people that will be coming down with Russia. Persia. Iran was called Persia until 1935. Iran still presides over the Persian Gulf, and many people still call Iran Persia today because that's what it is. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya are with them, all of them with the shield and helmet. We're talking about an alliance between Russia, between Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, later on, even Turkey is named. So God said, I'm going to bring you down against the land of Israel. Obviously, they're preparing. They're mentally prepared. Then when you move on to Ezekiel 38, verse 7 through 9, here's what it says. Prepare yourself and be ready, you and all your companies that are gathered about you, and be a guard for them. After many days you will be visited. Remember, this is God speaking. In the latter years you will come into the land of those brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Israel, which have long been desolate. Okay, now let's think about this just a moment. We're talking about the people that have been gathered out of the nations. 1,878 years from the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD until 1948, when the nation of Israel was reborn. The Jews were without a homeland. Now here God's speaking of them, and this was written before 70 AD. This was written probably 500-600 BC. Yet God was foretelling the very things that you and I are witnessing right now. This whole 38th chapter, actually chapter 38 and 39, all prophesies about the circumstances of the Battle of Armageddon, that final war where the enemies of Israel will be defeated and Jesus Christ will come back, put down the kingdoms of this world, and we'll crown him King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So this 38th chapter, this 39th chapter is all dealing with that. Goes on to say, they were brought out of the nations, and now all of them dwell safely. You will ascend, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your troops, and many peoples with you. Again, who's he speaking to? He's speaking to Gog, Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. We've already mentioned that that's Russia. He's speaking about Persia, which is Iran. And he's speaking about Togarmah, which is Turkey. We already see the Russian, Turkish, Iranian alliance. They just met together within the last few weeks, attempting to decide what to do with Syria. How are we going to divide it up? Are we going to leave Bashar al-Assad in power? What's going to happen? Okay, let's finish the prophecy. This is verse 14 and 16 of Ezekiel 38. Therefore, Son of man, prophesy and say to Gog, thus saith the Lord God, on that day when my people Israel dwell safely, will you not know it? Notice here he refers to Israel by name. Then you will come from your place out of the far north. Go to Jerusalem, get a map of Jerusalem, look due north, you find Russia. You're going to come to your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you. You're not coming by yourself. You're going to have Iran, Turkey, Ethiopia, Libya, and others. All of them riding on horses, a great company and a mighty army. You will come against my people Israel like a cloud to cover the land. It will be in the latter days that I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I'm hallowed in you, O Gog, before their eyes. Now let's make sure we understand. God said, I'm going to bring you down. Now Russia's going to think it's her idea. Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, Turkey, they're all going to say, let's go down and invade Israel. It's time to wipe Israel off the map. We've been talking about it. It's time to do it. And all the time what they don't know is God says, I will bring you down. I'm going to bring you forth. Think about that. There's another scripture in Zechariah 14:2, which says, I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. Why is God going to do that? He said, so that I may be hallowed, magnified as God in the sight of all the nations of the world. When you come down, the whole world's going to say Israel doesn't have a chance. She's standing against some of the mightiest forces on earth. But when you come down, you think you're just fighting Israel. You're not just going to be fighting Israel. You're going to be fighting me, God himself. Let's go to another article now. This comes from Debka. This was published on April 21st. Iran heats war rhetoric to cover up military buildup in Syria. Tehran is drumming up an oral war of attrition against Israel as a ruse to deter the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, from striking the military hardware and personnel flowing into Syria. I mean, Iran is moving military equipment into Syria and into Lebanon as fast as they can. They are arming Hezbollah and also their troops, those 100,000 Iranian troops in Syria. They are arming them to the teeth right now. They know they're going to war with Israel. They've already made up their mind. The article goes on to say, Iran is pouring out violent threats in a rising crescendo against the Jewish state for two goals. One is to keep Israel off balance and frozen in a high defense posture on its northern borders, and two, to con Israel into fearing that any Israeli Defense Force action would tip over into an all-out conflict. The stratagem allows Tehran to keep up a continuous stream of hardware and personnel into Syria and Lebanon, free of hindrance by Israel's Air Force and missiles, and so anchor its military presence in both of Israel's northern borders. Now, in the meantime, Russia has said to Israel, now look, if you come up to fight Iran in Syria, we're going to join Iran against you. Now, up until now, Russia and Israel had been on some pretty good terms, but now Russia has inserted itself and said, if you attack Iran, we're going to fight against you with Iran. If Iran attacks you, we'll fight with you against Iran. So Russia's put themselves as the kingmaker in the middle of the whole thing. Tension between Tehran and Jerusalem has been high since April the 9th, when an Israel airstrike knocked out a Revolutionary Guards Air Force Command Center at the Syrian T4 air base. Remember, Israel has said, we're not going to allow Iran to put its troops in Syria. So they knocked out this T4 air base. But Syria is determined they are going to put troops there. The article goes on to say, but apart from blistering threats of retaliation, Iran has done nothing. Israel celebrated its Independence Day under clear skies, although the following day, Friday, April the 20th, the Guard's deputy commander, General Hossein Salami, warned that Iran's hand was on the trigger of its missiles, and Israel's air bases were, quote, within reach. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's where Israel's living right now. In the meantime, President Donald Trump repeatedly asserts that he is determined to pull American troops out of Syria as soon as possible. This gift is a boon for Tehran's goals. It will remove the main obstacle, a U.S. military presence along the Syrian-Iraq border, that impedes the transfer of pro-Iranian Shiite militias from Iraq into Syria, and the creation of a continuous land bridge from Tehran, Iran, to the Mediterranean. That's what Iran has been dreaming of. Moscow and Jerusalem are at loggerheads over Syria after a long period of friendship. Tehran has taken note of President Vladimir Putin's recent warning to Israel that its Air Force operations in Syria would no longer have the freedom previously enjoyed. Putin has therefore removed another big obstacle from Tehran's goals. For all these reasons, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman cannot be satisfied with their protestations of the IDF's readiness and willingness to pick up the gauntlet against any threat. Tehran's belligerent rhetoric is a cover for an action which Israel's leaders have vowed to prevent. Well, this can no longer be done by talk alone. You can see the Iranian problem that Israel has right now. So what does Israel do? Israel said, we're never going to allow Iran to have bases in Syria, but Iran has bases in Syria now. So does Israel begin to bomb each of those bases and to risk war with Russia? They don't want to do that. In the meantime, President Donald Trump doesn't like to have our foreign troops there. When he ran as a presidential candidate, he said, we're not going to do that. We've already spent $7 trillion in the Middle East. We need to be rebuilding our infrastructure at home. But if he pulls out, then that gives Iran free rein to come storming into Syria and to do whatever she wants to do. So here Israel is, here America is. France is saying, America, don't withdraw from Syria. Great Britain is saying, America, don't withdraw from Syria. But yet we don't want to be there fighting these wars halfway around the world. So where is it all going to end up? Somehow, some way, it's going straight to the Battle of Armageddon. Now we know that there's at least 7 years before the Battle of Armageddon. But the stage is being set right now. So what am I saying to you? The prophecies for the time just ahead, remember Ezekiel 38:39 is the Battle of Armageddon. And it's at the Battle of Armageddon that Jesus Christ returns to this earth once and for all. So how far away are we? 7 years, 8 years, 9 years? I can't tell you for sure. I can tell you for positive that the stage is set right now. That's the reason we need to support President Trump. We need to support Israel. And also we need to make sure that we ourselves are ready to understand what's going on in the Middle East. We have a DVD called Trump, Jerusalem, and Armageddon. You really should get it. All you have to do is call 1-800-END-TIME, or you can go to our website, endtime.com. Let me tell you today about our exciting Armageddon collection. What does the term Armageddon mean? Why is it so important in Bible prophecy in the last days? And what will happen between now and then? In our Armageddon collection, we cover subjects such as events of the final 7 years, the revealing of the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, and the world's greatest revival just ahead. In this special collection, you will receive the DVD, Seeds of Armageddon, November 29, 2012, our 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon, along with a PDF of our 7-year timeline, and our informative DVD, First Step to Armageddon, December 23, 2016. All of this for your gift of $140 or more, plus the cost of shipping and handling. To order your Armageddon collection, go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at End Time will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archives button. You're listening to an End of the Age encore presentation.
We will be taking your calls in this segment of the program. The number to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. If you need to reach our operators for some of the products that have been offered, that number is 1-800-END-TIME. If you'd like to become a partner with End Time Ministries, please do it. We need you, God needs you, and you will be blessed. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to tell you the end time is coming. I am here to tell you the end time has arrived We are living in it at this moment. I was on an earlier talk program with another ministry, and they asked me, so is the Antichrist alive on the earth right now? There's no doubt in my mind. The prophecies are too far advanced. Just what we were talking about in the first part of our program today. Just the fact that Iran, Turkey, and Russia are meeting together to carve up Syria or to determine the future of Syria. Just that alone, the fact that they are the three major powers specifically prophesied in Ezekiel chapter 38 to invade Israel at the Battle of Armageddon. There are so many other things. All of you know that we will be soon moving our embassy to Jerusalem. That happens on May the 14th. I will be in Israel at the time. I will be reporting for you all of the events of that particular time. It promises to be a marvelous time. However, it's going to be marvelous to the people of Israel, but it's not going to be marvelous to the enemies of Israel. They are going to be biting nails into. They are so angry at Donald Trump. Now, the Jewish people are just ecstatic at Donald Trump. They're putting him in the same category as King Cyrus of the Persians way long ago. I mean, now then, the Persians are one of their worst enemies. I'm speaking of Iran, but way long ago, back, what was it? Let me see if I can recall the date, 539 BC. It was King Cyrus who gave the decree that the Jews that had been carried away into Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, that those Jews, because now then the Medes and the Persians had overthrown the kingdom of Babylon and they were now ruling the world, Cyrus gave permission for the Jews to go back and to rebuild their temple in the city of Jerusalem. Well, he became ever revered in Jewish history. Now then, they've actually produced a coin in Israel that has the face of Cyrus and also of Donald Trump on it. They're putting them in the same category because here Trump is finally standing up for Israel in the face of the entire world. I mean, the United Nations made a resolution on December the 23rd of 2016 after President Trump had won the office, but he wasn't yet in power because all of you know from the time of the election until the time of the inauguration, the outgoing president is a lame duck to a degree, but he still has a lot of power. Well, President Obama, he wanted to stick it to Israel because he hated them so bad. So he did the worst thing he could have done. He conspired with the other nations on the UN Security Council and said, if you want to pass a resolution stating that Israel's presence in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank is a violation of international law, we will not veto it. Up to that time, America had pretty well protected Israel with our veto power at the UN Security Council. Well, they did it. On December the 23rd, Resolution 2334 was passed. And it stated that Israel's presence in the West Bank and also including East Jerusalem was a flagrant violation of international law. Now, the incoming Trump administration did their best to maneuver to stop it, but they couldn't do it because they couldn't get anyone to veto the resolution. Now, there were 15 members of the UN Security Council. Normally, America would use its veto to stop everything, but not this time. Obama stood smugly by, letting the resolution pass. Consequently, right now, in international law, if you believe in international law, I don't. I don't believe we should honor international law at all. I don't believe the United Nations should have any power at all. I don't even believe it should exist. It's a one world governmental system that is already corrupt. It is going to be more corrupt. The Bible teaches the Antichrist. That is the structure that will be used to rule the world very shortly now when the Antichrist comes to power. So international law, they're trying to get all the nations of the world to say we must obey international law. Israel says, no, we're not going to surrender Jerusalem. And then President Trump puts all the weight of the United States of America behind that by recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, which the United Nations says you cannot do, but we did it anyway, and nobody could do a thing about it. Now that we're moving our embassy there, and now then Guatemala is moving its embassy there, and Honduras is moving its embassy there, and others are starting to move their embassies to Jerusalem. So the United Nations is very upset because they see their new world order that they've been building for the last 100 years or so coming unraveled. Like I say, we're taking your calls today. There are open lines, which is an unusual situation for us here at End Time Ministries. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. Now, while we're waiting for you to dial, within the last few days, our ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, went to the U.S. State Department and said, I'm asking you not to refer to the West Bank and the Golan Heights as occupied territory. He said, if a lie is repeated often enough, people begin to believe it. I would like to make sure you know that that is not occupied territory. I mean, every resolution that the UN passes, they talk about Israel being the occupier. Well, let me give you the little history, and we're going to do this fast because I want to get to your phone calls. But let me give you a little bit of a history. When the United Nations declared Israel a nation in 1947, and then Israel declared its independence on May the 14th of 1948, the Arabs did not want a Palestinian state. They said, no, thank you. We want to just destroy the Jews. So they attacked Israel the next day, May the 15th. 5 nations attacked them. And Jordan at that time invaded the West Bank. Biblically, it's called Judea Samaria. They invaded. When the war came to a ceasefire in 1949, Jordan occupied the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Now, the nation of Jordan never had a right to that territory. They came across the Jordan River to fight against Israel, and they stayed. So who was the occupier? Jordan, of course. They occupied the territory. It was the British mandate before then, and Lord Balfour of Great Britain in 1917, the British cabinet issued a statement that His Majesty's government looks with favor upon establishing a Jewish state in the area called Palestine. So that was the territory. Jordan occupied it until 1967, when Jordan tried to attack Israel to drive her into the sea again. Jordan, Egypt, and Syria were in collusion together. They tried to drive Israel into the sea. Israel counterattacked, and through divine intervention, they drove Jordan back across the Jordan River. Now, that being true, who does the land belong to? Y'all read your Bible? Jericho was in Israel. Bethlehem was in Israel. All that area was in Israel. It has never, ever, ever, ever been a Palestinian state. So it's not occupied territory. Well, David Friedman, our ambassador to Israel, knows this very well. And yet our liberal State Department, pressuring Israel to withdraw from the area, had continually called it occupied territory. Well, our State Department just made the decision we're no longer going to call it occupied territory. And so that's just happened within the last 2 or 3 days. And Lieberman is the defense minister of Israel, he hails the decision to drop occupied from West Bank terminology. Well, that's what's going on right now. Okay. Let's go now to Trevor. He's calling from Missouri. Hello, Trevor.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Trevor. What's on your mind?
Okay, I've heard you teach before that the Bible teaches that 1/3 of mankind will die during World War III. I had a question. I saw today that Russia had moved some S-300 air defense systems into Iran, and it warned Israel against a direct attack. If Israel was to defend itself against Iran and I guess take action against Russia, would you then see a retaliation against the United States or against Israel more likely?
Well, Trevor, in order to kill 1/3 of mankind, 2.5 billion, you're going to have a lot of the big powers involved. Probably the United States, probably Russia, probably China, possibly India. Who knows? All we know is the outcome of this war. The outcome will be that the center for world power is going to shift from America to Europe. The Bible explicitly teaches this. The Antichrist and the false prophet will come out of Europe. Also, Russia will then move to align herself with Europe. The way we know this is Revelation 13 depicts the end-time kingdom. It's depicted as, kingdoms are always depicted in the Bible, in Bible prophecy, as a beast. And it describes the beast as having the body of the leopard, which is Germany, the feet of the bear, which is Russia, the mouth of the lion, which is Great Britain. So that's what it shows there. So that's going to be the end time power base of the Antichrist. No eagle's wings. America's the eagle. Now we are in chapter 12, one chapter before that, and we're shown protecting Israel against the Antichrist. So this paints a picture of the one world governmental system centered in Europe, together with Russia, and us and Israel on the outside during the time called the Great Tribulation. So that's the way we can know where this is all headed, and exactly all the events and how it will come to pass, who will fight who and how it will all be aligned during World War III. I cannot tell you for sure, but that's going to be the end result.
Do you see an economic collapse or like a mini, I guess you could say, depression coming for the United States? I mean, with this whole move towards the digital currency, and I know that Bitcoin was kind of a bubble, but, I mean, okay, will the United States, do you think the United States would accept some type of a digital currency? I mean, in that sense, would they be a part of a one world economic system, or how should we view that?
Well, if we're going to stay out of the world system, we're probably not going to want to be tied in with a world economic system. Of course, we are right now. Right now, all the economy of the world is pretty much tied together because everything is digitized. However, we still maintain a level of financial independence. I would suspect we will move more toward financial independence, and God's blessed this marvelous nation. We have vast resources. Now then, we'll soon be energy independent as well. So I cannot tell you exactly what's going to happen. Do I predict a depression? No, I don't. The Bible says, up to the day of the coming of the Lord, they will be eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage, until the day that the flood came and took them all the way. That's the way it's going to be in the days of his coming. Same way as it was in the days of Noah, that's the way it's going to be in the days of his coming. I don't foresee a Great Depression.
We live in critical times. If the final 7 years started today, would you know what to do? God's people need to understand the prophecies that are taking place. Daniel 11:33 says, "And they that understand among the people shall instruct many." To guide the people around us, we must first receive instruction ourselves on the biblical prophecies of the end time. End Time Ministries is introducing the End Time 1000. We have created Jerusalem Prophecy College online to help you be ready to inform those around you. The goal is to have at least 1,000 people prepared to instruct others. By joining the End Time 1000, you can fulfill Daniel 11:33. Sign up for Jerusalem Prophecy College online and be equipped to guide your friends and loved ones during the final 7 years. Go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. That's JerusalemProphecyCollege.com.
You're listening to an End of the Age encore presentation.
We're coming right back to the phones, and we're going to Oklahoma. Nina, you're on the air. Hello.
Yes, hello. I had two questions. My first question was about Revelation 10:9-10, where John eats the book. I had asked my mom about it. She went to ORU, and I don't know, she couldn't just answer the question for me, like where he says he ate the book and it was going to be like honey but it was bitter. It's going to be bitter to his tummy. Do you know anything about that? Do you have any insight?
Well, I do. There's another place in the Bible that talks about it'll be sweet, that sin is sweet in the mouth, but bitter in the belly.
Yes.
And so John was apparently being sent to preach again. Notice that the last verse, verse 11, says, you must prophesy again about before many people, nations, tongues, and kings. John did not die on the Isle of Patmos. He was released from exile. According to history, he went back and he was the overseer of the 7 churches of Asia. But he also preached far and wide. And his message was a message against the sins of the people and of coming judgment. So that's the closest I've been able to come to satisfying my own mind about what he was. It was actually the message that he had to internalize so that he then could go before people, kings, and presidents and preach to them against their sin and tell them what they should do to be right. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you so much. And also my second and final question, I am so confused about this because in Daniel 7:4, it says the first was like a lion and it had eagle's wings, and I watched till its wings were plucked off. So if the lion is supposed to be like, England and the U.S. broke away from England, are we Babylon, America? Because it says it's plucked its wings, and the eagle is America, right?
Yes, the eagle's America. The lion and the eagle, neither one were Babylon. I know that the commentaries teach that the lion was Babylon, the bear was Media, Persia, the leopard was Greece, the 10-horned kingdom was Rome. However, the Bible contradicts what the commentaries say. If you go to the next chapter, chapter 8, you see there a ram fighting with a he-goat. It says there the ram is Media, Persia, and the he-goat is Greece. The commentaries say the bear is Media, Persia, and the leopard is Greece. The commentaries contradict Scripture. The commentaries obviously are wrong in this case, because you can also prove that all the beasts, all the nations symbolized by the beast in Daniel 7 must be on the earth at the time of the second coming. Obviously, Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and all those have passed away and are no longer contemporary nations. So the traditional understanding of that passage is simply incorrect. That is a prophecy of the nations that will be on the earth at the time of the second coming: Great Britain, United States, Russia, Germany, and a 10-nation union out of Europe.
So which one is Babylon? Is that Rome?
None of those are Babylon.
None of them?
No, none of those are Babylon. Now, if you want to see Babylon in prophecy, go back to Daniel chapter 2. There was a statue with 5 segments to it. The first segment was the head of gold, and that was Babylon. Then, if you want to see Mystery Babylon in the end time, you go to Revelation 17, and there is a woman riding on the back of a 7-headed, 10-horned beast. The beast is the power base of the Antichrist. The woman is the religious system. It'll be a union of politics and religion. It'll be a union of the political powers with the religious powers. And the woman there is Mystery Babylon, according to verse number 5 of chapter 17. Her name is Mystery Babylon because she's not called Babylon today, but she has the spirit of Babylon. There are 6 clues to the identity of Mystery Babylon in chapter number 17. I'm going to go through them real fast. 1, the woman is a city, that's verse 18. 2, the city sits on 7 hills, that's verse 9. 3, the woman sits on peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. She's over an international system. And then 4, the woman is dressed in red and purple. 5, the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints. So every clue given in that 17th chapter fits the Vatican perfectly. The Vatican is Mystery Babylon.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. My soul is at rest. Like I literally was like going crazy trying to figure this out. So thank you for taking my call. I appreciate you.
Okay. You're so welcome, Nina. Thank you for calling. Let's go now to, is it Ernest? Yes, from New York. Hello, Ernest.
Yeah, that's me. I just wanted to ask a question about their Bible. They seem to be trying to take our Bibles away.
Yeah, in
I hear in
California,
they've already passed a law.
they're trying to pass a law. I don't think it's totally passed yet, but they're trying to pass a law that any literature that in any way reflects on same-sex marriage, homosexuality in any way, that should be illegal because it condemns people and it brings shame and guilt upon them, and they don't want anything that would make them feel guilty. So they're trying to outlaw any book that would condemn homosexuality. Well, the Bible condemns homosexuality big time. So consequently, that's what you're referring to. I was just reading that article earlier today, and I don't think it's passed yet, but they're certainly trying to get it done right now.
But I haven't heard nothing about the Quran.
Well, I don't know. I've not read all of the Quran, so I do not know. I don't think it mentions the Bible either. It just simply mentions any books. The Bible says they do not like to retain God in their knowledge. Speaking of homosexuals in Romans chapter 1, they don't want anything that would make them feel guilty or that would reprove them. That's the reason they want to outlaw anybody that speaks against homosexuality, because it brings condemnation upon them and they don't want to hear it. So that's what's behind this law.
Okay, well, I just thought it was terrible. Well, thank you for taking my call.
Well, it is terrible, and we need to do everything we can to stop it. They're doing their best to get God out of our lives. Thank you very much, Ernest, and let's go now to Robert calling from Tennessee. Hello, Robert.
Hello, sir. Thanks for taking my call. My question is about where did the people come from who are being ruled in the millennium?
If you'll go to Daniel chapter number 7, the answer is there. In Daniel chapter 7, the first 8 verses are devoted to the nations that will be on the earth at the time of the second coming. In verse 9, Daniel said, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. So when Jesus comes, all human governments will be cast down, set aside, and Jesus will rule as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Then in verse number 11, Daniel backs up and said, I watched until the beast, speaking of the last beast, the Antichrist, he was slain and his body given to the burning flame. Well, when Jesus comes to the earth, he will destroy the Antichrist and his religious partner, the false prophet, and cast them into the lake of fire. Another account of this is in Revelation chapter 19, verse number 20. So that's what we see in verse 11. Now, verse 12 is the key to your question. In verse 12, it says, as concerning the rest of the beast, and remember in the chapter it says these beasts are symbols of nations. As concerning the rest of the nations in this prophecy, they have their dominion taken away, their power, but their lives will be prolonged. So there will be many of the nations on the earth at the second coming of Jesus that will not fight in the battle of Armageddon, will not be destroyed in the battle of Armageddon, but yet many of them did not make the rapture. They're going to live on as mortals into the 1,000-year reign of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ and his immortal church, we will be changed from mortal to immortality at his coming. We will then rule and reign as kings and priests with him, immortals, ruling over mortals. So that's where the people will come from during the millennium.
May I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Will those people have an opportunity for eternal salvation?
I don't know the answer to that, Robert. All I know is that when there have been other dispensation changes, when you move from the days of Noah to the next dispensation, when you move from law till John the Baptist, you move from John the Baptist till the church age, people who lived under one age and went into the next age, they did have a chance to be saved. Now, whether that will be true at this time, I don't know that the Bible specifically addresses it, but they will live in the millennium. Satan, of course, will be bound, and I don't know what the plan of salvation will be. There will undoubtedly be one because there always has been one. So I cannot answer you for sure, but nevertheless, God knows all those things, and, well, I plan on making the rapture, and then we'll let the Lord sort the rest of that out.
I apologize so much, but may I just do one slight follow-up?
Sure.
So, since someone as knowledgeable as you are, you don't have the answer, and I appreciate your honesty. Does that affect the gospel the way it should be preached now?
I don't think it should affect it at all, because it's so critical for people to be prepared. Furthermore, the Bible does teach anybody that takes the mark of the beast will be cast into the lake of fire. Who those people are that survive, we do know this. When the children of Israel were sentenced to wander in the wilderness for 40 years until they died because they could not enter the promised land, the younger generation was not held responsible for the decision of their parents. I did go on the internet and do a search of how many people in the world today are below the age of 20, which was the age break back in that day. And there are 2 billion people below the age of 20. So maybe God is only going to hold them, not hold them responsible, and only hold their parents who did not make the decision to submit themselves to the Lordship of Jesus Christ. I don't know the answer for sure. All I know is I don't plan to miss the first bus out of here. I plan to be a part of those that are changed from mortal to immortality and rule and reign as kings and priests forever with Jesus Christ. That is the only safe way to go.
And it sounds like you may be saying or implying that perhaps those people in the millennium who are being ruled, perhaps they did not take the sign of the beast.
Yeah, because many of the young people may not have to do that since they are below the age of accountability, wherever that age may be. So
I see.
Anyway, all I know is that's what happened when the children of Israel refused to go into the promised land. The children were not held accountable for the decisions of their parents. Could that be God's criteria? I don't know that for sure. I've wrestled with the question a lot of times. That's one possible answer to it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your honesty and forthright.
Okay, well, thank you, Robert. Appreciate the call. For those of you who are yet holding, I'm sorry we are out of time, but thank you very much for participating today. And, well, we're going to be right back here, as you know, tomorrow. Anyway, right now, I'd like to appeal to you, all of you listening today. If you're not yet a partner with End Time Ministries, we are entering right now the era of the greatest prophetic fulfillment since the world began, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, we are on the countdown to the second coming of Jesus Christ. I would invite you to join us and add your strength to what we do here by becoming a monthly partner with End Time Ministries. If it's just for a small amount or a medium amount, whatever God lays on your heart, why don't you pick up the phone right now? Don't neglect it. Call this number, 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463, and our operators will guide you through the process. God bless you all. See you tomorrow.
End of the Age is a production of End Time Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. End Time Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.